Good afternoon and welcome to those of you who are joining this webinar or a webinar with me for the first time, and also welcome back to those of you that this has now become a regular occurrence. You're all very welcome. We are live and this webinar is being recorded on the Crowdcast platform. So those people that cannot attend will be able to watch this webinar on demand. So a few basic things just to get us started. I see Tori and Michelle have got started with the chat box. So those of you that are looking at your screen, if you look at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see the chat box. I'd love if you could introduce yourself, who you are, and perhaps even just give me a little bit of a flavour of why you're here. Why is this of interest to you? I'd love to hear that. Also, what we have, you'll see at the top of your screen, you will see the Julie Allen Consulting, and you can follow me on Crowdcast. What that means is you will always be updated of those webinars that I'm going to be providing. So if you like what you hear and you're interested in hearing more, please click that. You'll see down in the middle bottom of the screen, there is book your 30-minute complimentary consultation. So just in terms of what you're hearing today, if you'd like to have a chat about how I might support you even with this, please feel free to use that. What that will do is take you through to an online booking system, and you will be able to make an appointment online with myself. So we have quite a few people joining us now. Please don't be shy. I'd love to hear, as I say, who you are. Maybe even if you want to introduce not only who you are, but the sector that you belong to and why this is of interest to you. So please get started in the chat box. I'm just going to have a look so that I can see who is attending. Many of you have been here before, so thanks for coming back. And I will get started as I hope you are typing away on your keyboard just to give me a flavour of why you're here. Okay, so well, why are we here? Why am I holding this webinar? Well, one of the things that we all know, I think by now, is the COVID pandemic has really made everybody reflect on their lives. Some research conducted by McKenzies and Co., one of the global consultants, found that 7 out of 10 employees are currently reflecting on their purpose because of COVID. And why does that matter to you? Well, it matters to you because there is a war on talent at the moment. There is a scarcity on talent out there. I'm guessing some of you are finding it difficult in terms of recruitment and selection. And so if people are really reflecting on their purpose, then you as leaders play an important role in terms of helping people find fulfillment in their lives at work, because we spend at least 60% of our lives at work. So we need that to be meaningful and fulfilling. So in terms of the key areas of focus this afternoon in this hour that I'm going to spend with you, we're going to look at why it's important to clearly define and communicate your organisational purpose. I have already started to give you a flavour for that. Thank you, Michelle. Just while I'm talking, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat box as well. So thanks for sharing why you're here. Help just keep my glasses on. Considering how you communicate and ensure consistent focus and motivation of all employees. Those are things that we're definitely going to look at. So if we look at even this second area of focus this afternoon, so why it's important to clearly define and communicate your organisational purpose, but also what I want to do in this short time that we spend together is help you to discover what really matters to your team members and to support them to live then their purpose at work. Sharon, thank you for joining me. You're okay, great, you're in a sure start, and you'd like some ideas to motivate and encourage. So there we have two of you here, brave enough to use the chat box. Thank you for that. And what you're both looking for here is motivating and encouraging the team. And that's the essence of everything that I'm going to talk about this afternoon. This is a really important topic. I am preaching to the converted. That's why you're here. There is a huge war on talent, so you need to attract good talent and you need to retain people. But also what you're saying is you need to motivate those people that you already have so that they can perform at their best and you as an organisation benefit from that. So just maybe in terms of thinking about that, and that motivation is one of the things that you as leaders need to do is to meet employees where they are, to help them achieve fulfillment at work. And many of you have probably heard that term. I have used in different webinars that came from some Gallup research. And that is, people don't leave organisations, they leave managers. So you're talking about how do we keep people motivated and engaged and fulfilled at work? And you as the leader have the impact in doing that. And in terms of that fulfillment at work and helping people to achieve that, we need to look at the relationship between the individual's purpose at work. Some research again, much of this research I'm sharing with you today comes from McKenzies & Co. And what their research found was that 70% of an employee's sense of purpose is largely defined by the work that they do. So the work that they do needs to be meaningful for them to be fulfilled. And amazingly, 62% want to get more purpose from work. So people aren't feeling fulfilled. We know that the sense of purpose comes from work, but people needing more of that. And so this diagram helps to show that relationship between the individual's purpose and their work. So in the outer circle, what we see is we all get purpose from outside of work. That is about the life that we live as a parent, as a partner, as a mother, as a father, as all of those range of roles that we fulfill in life. So we get purpose from that. We get purpose from the work that we do, engaging with and making progress in work activities. So purpose from the type of work that we do. And you're already sharing that type of work that you do. Hi, Tori, thanks for joining us. Just seeing your comment now. So really, there are different areas in our life that we get purpose from. So the type of work that you do, and you're sharing the meaningful work that many of you do. And in the center then, what we have is purpose that people get from the organisation. So back to, do people leave organisations or do they leave managers? People need to be fulfilled by the manager. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining me. So how best to support staff with transitions from Laura. So what you'll see here is what we want in the illustration of the three different examples that are shown here. We want that inner circle to be bigger, for people to be fulfilled, to get purpose from the organisation, the type of work that organisation does and what's important to it. So in this case, we see that Nicole's purpose from her work is aligned with and fulfilled by the company's purpose. What is it that company does? Each company has its own individual and unique purpose. The type of work that people do may be the same in different organisations, so they provide an advice and support. But it's the contribution that makes to the organisation and the impact that organisation then has on society. In the second example here, we'll see that Nancy isn't feeling very fulfilled by her work. And really, the third example is Catherine's purpose then is misaligned. So there is no alignment. Many of you may have heard of this before, is trying to get alignment, an individual's alignment with the organisation's alignment. So we need to start thinking about today the organisational purpose as well as the individual's purpose. So if you want to, as you've said, look at consistent focus and motivation and encouragement with the team, you've got to look at your organisational purpose and what it is. What does it you as an organisation stand for? Now, even if we look at in terms of that organisational purpose, and why that organisational purpose is important and why it's important to get that alignment, here is McKenzies' research again that shows employees who get purpose from the work that they do show better outcomes. So these individuals in organisations who get purpose from what they do and work are 6.5 times more likely to report higher levels of resilience. They are 4 times more likely to report better health outcomes. Those individuals who get that purpose from work are going to be more energetic at work and more satisfied at work, but also they're going to be more energetic and more satisfied with the life that they are living. So in work, people will have greater levels of pride, satisfaction, commitment, achievement, connection, and excitement. So I'd like you to start thinking about your organisational purpose. What is your organisational purpose and have you defined it? Because we know that by the research that I'm showing you is there needs to be connection and there needs to be alignment with the organisational purpose. So what is it? Is that clearly defined and is that communicated? And what I'd like to show you here again is research that has again been conducted by McKenzie and co. And that is around what the post-pandemic organisation needs to look like. And it's shaped along 3 dimensions. In the centre here, what we have are the 3 dimensions of who we are as an organisation. And they focus on things like purpose, value, the value that the organisation brings, and the culture of the organisation. Now, in terms of focusing on purpose at work, we're really going to be talking about those 3 dimensions today. The other 3 in terms of how we operate are around decisions, talent, and structure. And how we grow is around our ecosystems, learning, and platforms. Ultimately, the other 6 will really be influenced by the 3 in the centre. So really now what we want to be doing is to be thinking about what is purpose. So using the chat box, I'd like to get a sense from you, those questions that I've just been asking you. Have you got an organisational purpose? Have you defined that purpose on paper? And have you communicated that to the team? I know some of you that are attending, so I know some of you will have this, but have you defined an organisational purpose? What is that purpose? So there are many terms that are used out there today. Those are things like the vision, the purpose, the mission, and values. So really, what is that purpose? The purpose defines your organisation's reason for being. That is the impact that your organisation has on society. It has on the impact on those people that you are serving. Many organisations' mission statements tend to describe what it is you do, rather than the impact that you are likely to have. The purpose really is at the core of an organization's strategy, because a strategy is looking at where we want to go and how we're going to get there. So we really need to define that purpose to be able to focus in on those strategic choices. So what do we do and how do we do it is going to come from that organizational purpose. So have you thought about the benefits that your organization brings to shareholders, suppliers, those other organizations and stakeholders within the ecosystem that you exist within, and that community that you might even physically exist within, or that community of which you serve and operate? Have you spoken to those people and asked them what benefits you bring? Have you defined that clear purpose? Are you clear as leaders in your organization, the purpose that we have as an organization? So Geraldine, thank you for getting involved here. So you've just completed a consultation with staff and volunteers on the mission, vision, values or principles, and it was a positive process. So language has been used, was important, and you're absolutely right. The language here is key. People need to be involved in the development of this purpose because the words are important. The purpose here, the question for you that I would have, and my guess for Geraldine is, I know the answer to this, is the purpose shared? That's why the language is important and the consultation is also important. Is your purpose shared and is it authentic? So what I want to do is to share some examples of what the purpose might look like. So here I'm providing some global brands that we know. I'm providing for you their purpose today because you're familiar with these brands. And it's just to let you see what some of those organizational purposes might state. So Google's purpose is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Why are we here? What benefit do we hope to bring? Kellogg's, interestingly enough, isn't necessarily just about providing food and cereals. It's about nourishing families so that they can flourish and thrive. Again, highlighting the benefits that they bring to the community that they serve. Harley Davidson isn't all about motorbikes. It's really very much about them fulfilling dreams of personal freedom. That is what a Harley Davidson, in their view, that's what they want to provide to those individuals. Starbucks is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. PayPal is to democratize financial services to ensure that everyone, regardless of background or economic standing, has access to affordable, convenient, and secure products and services to take control of their financial lives. So we can see the PayPal example here is much longer than the other four. And again, what you want to be able to do is to have a purpose that is fairly succinct. If it's succinct, it will be memorable. If it's memorable, you will be able to repeat it. If it's memorable, your people then will find it easier to relate to. So thinking about your purpose today as an organization is going to be essential in terms of you setting out and defining what impact and what benefit do we bring to the people that we serve. That's one of the first questions today that you're going to need to answer. What I'd also like to share here in terms of why purpose is important is 7 trends that were identified by Korn Ferry in their Future of Work in 2022. So these are the key themes that you need to be thinking about in terms of the future at work. And that's going to relate back to purpose at work. So you need to define the organisational purpose, but we're talking about purpose at work and purpose in the organisation. One of the things that's happened in terms of the pandemic is the pandemic forced all of us to reinvent. And that was disruptive. It happened very quickly and rapidly for many organisations. Now what we need to do is look at reinvention in terms of redesigning to stay relevant. The pace of reinvention has exceeded where many of us thought it may have been just 2 years ago. If you look at your own organisations and look at how you've changed over the last 2 years, you would never have imagined that would have been the case. I mentioned earlier about the war on talent. So there is a scarcity of talent. And so one of the trends is going to be surviving what is called either the big quit or the great resignation. Interesting to hear whether many of you are experiencing resignations, people leaving their jobs. I think the experience in Northern Ireland that I'm hearing is it isn't that people are quitting their jobs at the moment, but it is that there is a huge scarcity of talent. So perhaps at the moment we're not in the environment in Northern Ireland for people to feel confident to be leaving their jobs and going somewhere else. But they are most certainly reevaluating their lives and the impact that work has on their lives. So it might not be happening at the moment, but it will in the future. Individuality is coming to that conversation about making purpose relevant in work and making it individual. So what we need to do from an individual perspective is to make business personal, is to find out what individuals' purpose is, to find out what they want that purpose to be at work. It is about making everything now individual, and that comes right down to reward and recognition. The days of providing generic rewards, recognition, terms and conditions is really gone. The scarcity for talent, people reevaluating their lives, being able to recruit perhaps on a global platform for some of you really means that we need to look at things from an individual perspective. We also need to be inclusive and unleash that power of all. So inclusive in all respects. So looking at diversity and inclusion in your organisation, because that's also going to be the key for retention and attraction. Vitality is all about the well-being of your employees. So we've been talking about many of these when we looked at the benefits and the business case in terms of aligning and considering purpose at work for your employees. Vitality and well-being, you really do need to put well-being at the centre of everything that you do to beat burnout and have employees that are resilient and excited and providing meaningful work, which means outcomes for you as employers. Sustainability is about shaping that smarter future. For many of your employees, sustainability matters. So we're back to talking about the individual purpose. Are they looking at you as an organisation in terms of how environmentally friendly you might be, how you might govern your organisation, and how sustainable the organisation is? Sustainability also links back to the scarcity. So many of these things will matter to your employees, and purpose is considering about what matters to individuals. Accountability is also going to be important in this year. Standing by what you do and taking responsibility. For leaders, it will be being accountable and responsible for your actions, because that's what's going to be expected by your employees. So we need to know and understand what your individual employees are expecting of you as an organisation and also as leaders, because you have the power then within you to help that be achieved. So what is it that we need to do to focus on purpose at work? Well, the first thing I've already described is to define the organisation's purpose. So what is it that is your purpose as an organisation? Is that clearly defined, and also has that been communicated? So it's about spending time talking to your people about the impact that your organisation has on society. Geraldine's talked about that consultation with her team. So it is about you consulting with your employees and asking them, not only your employees, but stakeholders and suppliers, other people that are in that ecosystem for your organisation. What do they believe brings, what do they believe are the benefits that your organisation brings? When we define that organisational purpose, which is the point that Geraldine's organisation has got to, what you need to then do is to keep that purpose at the top of everyone's mind every single day. So we need to keep that alive and meaningful. And one way to do that is to keep reflecting on the benefits and the impact that we are having on society. And again, what we know from research is those employees that spend time reflecting on the impact and the benefits that the organisation brings are 5 times more excited to work within that organisation. So one of the reasons that you're here today is around focus and motivation and encouragement. So spending time reflecting back on what do we believe, first of all, is the organisation's purpose. This is the benefit, the impact that we are going to have. Talking about the impact that we are having on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. So having conversations about the impact, sharing stories about the impact, it is that narrative. It is also about having that purpose front and centre in the organisation. How do we do that in the virtual world? Previously, 2 years ago, we may have found that the organisational purpose was displayed on the walls of organisations. But many of you have now moved to a hybrid of working. So you're going to be relying on those conversations that you as leaders are having, asking individuals within your team to tell you stories about how they are having that impact, how are they living that purpose, because that is what's going to give them reward and satisfaction. As an organisation, you'll need to focus on measuring what you can do in terms of measuring the output of that purpose, and also learn from what you measure. So can we measure progress towards that purpose? And what are we learning from that? One of the things I'm focusing on purpose at work is, if you're going to encourage individuals, you're going to motivate individuals, you're going to need to develop your leaders. One of the things the Corn Ferry report highlights in terms of those 7 key themes. Sorry, I'm just going to read Michelle's message. So, working hybrid, resisting temptation is to lead and communicate primarily by email. You're right, Michelle. And that's just not going to work in terms of purpose. So what you need to be doing is developing your leaders to understand what really matters in terms of communication. What matters to your individuals is to be having conversations with you as leaders. So this is about you being proactive as leaders, scheduling time in your diary to have daily briefings with your team in that hybrid working. So online, having conversations, checking in with individuals, talking about what's going on, fulfilling that purpose. So the daily check-ins are short and brief. But also then what you might be having is weekly team briefs, checking in with the team again, talking about what's happening. It's the proactive nature of making sure that the purpose is being fulfilled within the organisation. Very much what we're dealing with the first 4 actions here are at an organisational level. So sorry, what I was going to say was the developing leaders, the Korn Ferry report highlights the importance of emotional intelligence as leaders. So your emotional intelligence is about being aware of not only your own emotions and the impact that those have on you, but being aware of your emotions and the impact that those are having on others within the organisation, those people that you are interacting with. So as Michelle highlights, maybe when we're feeling rushed and busy, we will automatically revert to email as a means of communication rather than the face-to-face in the virtual world, even with the hybrid working. So it's developing leaders also to be able to have one-to-one conversations, check-ins, daily check-ins with individuals on their team, just to have conversations about what matters to them. So the 5th point that I've highlighted here is helping employees to find purpose at work. So leaders knowing and understanding purpose, being skilled at being able to tease out that purpose from their individuals through those one-to-one conversations. I'll shortly come to use something that some of you will have seen before that can be helpful in terms of helping you do that. So what we want to do is help employees to find out what their purpose at work is. So what is important to them at work? When you know individuals' purpose at work, we can move to the individuality in terms of those 7 key things that Korn Ferry highlighted. Because once we know as leaders what is important to individuals, then we can help individuals to fulfill that purpose at work. But if we're not having individual conversations with individuals on our teams, then we're simply not going to be able to do that. And the individual purpose will not be fulfilled. And what you're going to find then is people are either disengaged in the organisation, that is, they are certainly there in body and mind in your work, but they're going to do what needs to be done just to get by. So work will become much more transactional. And of course, there will be people in your organisation who work will just be transactional. It will just be for a paycheck. But what we know from the research that we have seen is that there are 62% of employees want greater fulfillment through purpose at work. And if they don't get it with us, they'll certainly get it with someone else. So we then, once we know those, and the individual purpose is what I've talked about, is aligning that organisational and personal purpose. So being able to help that individual to do tasks which fulfill that purpose. That might even be, for example, maybe even volunteering as part of the work that they do with an organisation. So how do we go about doing some of these things? So this is what we need to do. I've highlighted a little bit around how we might do that. But what I want to do now is to get a little bit more interactive with you all again. And some of you that have attended these workshops before may know what's coming next. So I use a tool which I love to share, because this tool is so flexible in its approach. So today we're going to be using the ACT matrix to look at focusing on purpose with an individual. So I'm starting with the individual first. And for those of you that haven't been here before, I'm just going to explain how this works. At the top of the matrix here, what we have is the 5 senses experiencing. What we see, what we hear, what we touch, taste and smell in the world. This is what we are doing and hearing, etc. in the external world. When we see, hear, touch, taste or smell, those things flow through us as an individual, and we then start to experience in the internal world. Internal experiences are things like thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories and sensations. In the middle of this line, we have noticing. Noticing those experiences in the external world and noticing those experiences in the internal world. And what we have is, you'll see some, depends when you last joined me, slight variation to what I would have referred to before. So on the left, I've got relief, and on the right, satisfaction. Before, I would have had away and towards. But really what we want to do now is, if we're thinking about an individual's purpose, we want to look at the purpose that brings them fulfillment and satisfaction, or things that then would give them relief. So we're going to be walking our way through this, through an example. So what I'd like to do is to start here, as always, in the bottom right of the matrix, by starting with who and what's important to you. Sorry, as I try, I'm now screen sharing, so bear with me because I do need it in edit mode. So I'm going to just wait on. Apologies for that. Unless I'd like you to join me before later in the order. Who is important to you is important. Okay, so I'm back, thankfully. So what I want you to do is use the chat box now to be looking at what's important, who's important to you. Laura, sorry, you're breaking up. It could be. Okay, so let's just get a check-in with everybody. Is anybody having issues with internet connection? Okay, you lost me too. Same. Okay, let's see what's happening. Okay, so okay, I'm back. Brilliant. Thank you, Geraldine. Not sure what happened there, but hopefully I am back with you. So you're back. Geraldine, thank you. So family and friends. Okay, so we're saying family and friends are important. Who else is important to you? Family, friends, colleagues, yeah, neighbors. Anybody else that's important in your life? Who are those people that are important in your life? Okay, even if we look at those to begin with, what I want to do is to ask you now, funders, thank you, Michelle, and the NHS, thank you, Tori. So NHS and funders. Okay. So what I want you to be doing now is thinking about this other part of this question, which is what you want to be asking your employees. What is important in your approach to those relationships? So what's important to you in terms of how you live your life? What are those things that are important for you? Please feel free to put those in the chat box. So, oh, I forgot my customers. Okay, so customers and service users, yes, be good that we remember them. So if we think about them now, what I'm asking you to think about is, so what's important in terms of that work that you do? So what's important in terms of the work that you do? So great. So we've got respectful, and we've got work-life balance, and we have got you're bear with me, between agencies, respectful relationships, great, family, okay, integrity, honesty, health, okay. So what is it that is important? And openness, truth, trust, purposeful work. Thanks everybody for getting involved here. Sorry, fingers not working like I would like them to today. So health, some trust, purposeful work. Okay, so if we think about those things, when I looked at the Corn Ferry 7 things, one of the things we talked about was sustainability. So for some people, the environment, impact on society are all things that may be important. If we think about those things, then what we would do is in the bottom left of this matrix, now what we're asking the question is, what unwanted stuff shows up that you would have in the internal world that you'd prefer not to experience? So what unwanted stuff would show up for some of your colleagues? Open, honest, okay, so work-life balance. So what are those things in the bottom left that could be showing up for you, for anybody, let's say? So fatigue. Okay, so fatigue definitely showing up at this point. It's January. Everybody's worked hard. COVID is also having an impact on the fatigue. Some of you may also be feeling stressed, under pressure, disillusioned, uncertain, and loss of isolated. Some of your people may be feeling isolated and feeling disconnected. Okay, so when we feel these things, the question is, and again, what we're trying to do is we're simply noticing here what it is that you would like to do to get rid of that unwanted stuff. What might you do? What might you notice colleagues doing? For example, any individual, because the ACT matrix is looking at me, I as an individual. What might I do when I'm feeling fatigued or stressed or under pressure or disillusioned or isolated or feeling disconnected? So I could go quiet. I might not participate in team meetings. I might do the minimum. I might look for something to help with the feeling stressed and under pressure. So that might be alcohol. It might also be alcohol or prescription drugs. What else might I do? So what we need to be doing is thinking about, as individuals, we all experience unwanted stuff and we all like to respond in a way to get rid of it. It's about noticing what that is, because what's happening over here on the left side of the matrix is giving us relief. It's not giving us satisfaction. So, I might go to bed. when I'm feeling tired. I might have trouble sleeping. So remember, what I do to get rid of the unwanted stuff, I would see or hear you doing in the external world. Now what we want to do is to move into the top right of the matrix by asking the question, what could you do that would bring you satisfaction in your approach towards those relationships? So what would you do? So if we think about respectful work-life balance, integrity, honesty, health, trust, purposeful work, environment, and impact on society. And also if we think about the things that are important, what actions, what things would I see you doing that would bring you satisfaction in your approach to those? So recognition for the job that you do. That could be, for example, you giving recognition to a colleague. So this is what you would do. So it could be give recognition. It could be giving recognition to your colleagues. It could be giving recognition to those people that report to you. It could be giving recognition to friends and family for the things that they're good at. Because when we look at this ACT matrix, we do this through a non-judgmental and compassionate viewpoint. So I'm just even going to add in here compassion and kindness, all things that we need in today's working world. So exercise, connect and listen. Okay, so we'll just add that in. So exercise, connect with other people. So make sure that they feel valued, tangible benefits and outcomes, taking time. So take time is what I was talking earlier, time to have meaningful conversations. You all here today want to be great leaders. And so what is it great leaders do? Great leaders do things that bring satisfaction not only to themselves but to others. So taking time to have those meaningful conversations, really listening to what people are saying, and allowing for flexible working arrangements. So flexibility may be something that you find is important for you. So flexibility, and that comes not just with flexibility in terms of time, but that might be also flexibility in terms of the role and the tasks. Champion listening, involve them in growth. Absolutely. So this is you involving people in conversations about development and growth. Okay, so in this case, when we use the ACT matrix, we're using it from a we perspective, a me perspective. So the actions that we see in the top right are what you would be doing. What would I see or hear you doing to get compassion because to get satisfaction, because compassion and kindness and respectful and integrity and honesty are all important to you. So this is you thinking about me as a leader. What is it that I need to do? So this is you practicing this yourself, and then you being able to practice this with your team, asking them those questions. Also, what we can do then is we can then, and this is the bit about alignment. So the first matrix is helping us to understand our own purpose as leaders. It is also then helping us to find out an individual's purpose by using the matrix to have the conversation with them as an individual. Because an individual's purpose is about what matters to them. And that's what you're asking in the bottom right. Now what we can do is we can move this up a level by using the pro-social matrix with the team. And the pro-social matrix with the team is, as we've done before with the ACT matrix, so this time what we have here is the question in the bottom right is, what is the team's shared purpose and what is important to the team? So again, let's just briefly, if I can get a few examples in the chat box, what is it you think is important to your team in terms of their work and their shared purpose within the organisation? What is important to them in work? The ACT matrix is looking at it from a life and work. So we're drilling it down now because the question is what is important to the team? So what might be important to your team in terms of that purpose? So they may say things like you have already said, work-life balance might be important. They may say also, okay, I'm definitely having trouble with technology today, so just give me a moment, not sure what the issue is. So, okay, so work-life balance, and I just look at so making use of their skills, so making use of skills. Okay. So making the use of their skills, so skills utilization. So we're a new team, so it's consistency, support, and engagement. So what they want is support, consistency, and engagement. Okay, so using those as an example, we would want to tease that out with the team, asking them, because this is a team shared purpose. It's what's important to the team, not just individuals. So over on the bottom left, then we're asking the question again is, what shows up inside team members that they want to get relief from? So again, we could include, many of those things that you've shared, because you're human just like your team members. So they could be feeling stressed, they could be feeling sad, they could be feeling grief, they could be feeling a lack of confidence. And I think some of these things are interesting to hear in your chat, because what we're doing with the pro-social matrix is developing the psychological safety within the team, creating an environment where it is okay to talk about how I feel. It is a safe environment, so what's important is safety, and safety is on a physical and psychological level. And people need to feel that safety at work. So when they're feeling a lack of confidence, they need to be able to talk about that and share that. They need to be able to take action on that. So anybody else, maybe in the chat box, what's showing up inside team members that they might want to get relief from? So it could be frustration with perhaps changes in the organisation and how you might be doing things. So again, what is it we might see team members doing? Okay, lack of uncertainty because of COVID. So uncertainty because of COVID. Apologies. My mouse today seems to be having a mind of its own. So uncertain is another thing that we would want to get relief from. So what might we see team members doing? Again, I'll get started, but feel free to include some of this in the chat box. So when team members are feeling uncertain or frustrated, what might they do? They could gossip about what's going on in the organisation. It could be gossip about people. They could second guess what's going on, and that quite often isn't helpful. They could cry in work. They could shout, or they could argue. And they might vent in terms of venting that frustration. So those are some examples of what individuals might be doing. I'm highlighting some of these because I'm helping you to understand, if you were to do this with your team, what you might be looking for. So what would I see or hear people doing when stress shows up, when sadness shows up, when grief shows up? Top right of the matrix, we're asking employees then, so what behaviours or actions would we see team members doing, or could we see team members doing, that would bring them satisfaction? So this is about how we act out our purpose at work. So what's important to us as a team, and what is it we need to do? So this might be, as a team, we need to develop. It might be that we need to have team conversations. These are things in the top right that we would commit to doing. So thanks there. We've also got worry showing up in the bottom left as well. So worry showing up here. So it's about team conversations. It's about having one-to-ones with the leader. So again, these are just examples, but there's nothing better than those coming from your team. So effective communication. So I think I'm hearing a lot about team building activities. These teams are spending so little time together. So it's asking the team what it is they need. So this could include things like, so clinical supervision for counselling roles. It could be participating in coaching so that they can develop and become more satisfied at work. So if you think about, there's a wide range of things that you could be doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back to here, thinking about focusing on purpose at work, because that's why we're here. Why we're here, what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at why it's important to get clarity and clearly define and communicate your organizational purpose, and how you can discover what really matters to your team and to support them to achieve their purpose. And ultimately, all of these things come down to communication and conversations. Having conversations about what is our shared purpose using the pro-social matrix. Finding out what matters to team members at work using the pro-social. Finding out what matters to individuals using the ACT matrix. And then looking at what actions, behaviours are required to align the organisational purpose and personal purpose. And so that comes with the ACT matrix and the pro-social matrix. Our time today is short, just those 60 minutes. So what I've tried to do is highlight the importance of the organisational purpose, give you some takeaways in terms of what it is that you can do, and not only what you could do, but how you would go about doing that. If you have any questions in our last few minutes, please include those in the chat box. I'd love to hear what you think of what you've heard from me today. And great, I'm glad, Michelle, you found it thought-provoking. That's definitely what I'm here to do. I'm here to help inspire you to take action. When I'm working with organizations, I really want to support organizations to create really great places to work. And so this is part of that. If you like what you're hearing, you want to explore more of that, some of you will have seen on my email, I've created a new website. Feel free to visit there and get some more tools and resources. I've shared more about the ACT matrix on daily blogs within the resources section of the website. If you'd like to have a chat about your organisational purpose and how you can get greater motivation with the team and your organisational purpose, please feel free to book in for that free consultation. As I say, that is an online booking system. Thank you all of you for taking the time out to join me. The fact that you take time out of a very busy day, I want to make sure that it is worthwhile for you. Thank you all for your very kind comments in the chat box. And I will hopefully see you next month for the monthly webinar. The topic I haven't decided on, because as many of you know, I like to look at what's topical and purpose at work in terms of that war on talent is something that I felt was really important to focus on. I may focus on that blog that I'd sent out to all of you on the 4 things that you need to be thinking about at work to create great places. Michelle, thank you. Delighted that it's worthwhile. Michelle, Tori, Geraldine, Sharon, Laura, everybody that's attended, thank you for joining me. Continue to stay well, look after yourselves, and I look forward to hearing from you again in February. Take care. Most importantly, have fun at work.